Here's the graph of g of x. Ooh. Later on, we're going to find out that this is a type of x cubed graph. But right now, we don't know that. Sketch the graph of negative g of x. So I see that negative g of x. And my brain goes through all of the things that that means. I see the negative is outside, so my brain thinks vertical reflection. If it's a vertical reflection, that is over the x-axis. The equation of the x-axis is y equals 0. So I think about what kind of reflection it is. I think about what's happening. I think about my y values. Are going to get multiplied by a -1. So I can take specific points. This looks like a really important point. And that point is at 1, 6. So on my graph, I'm going to have 1, -6. That's a perfect flip down or reflection over the x-axis. Okay? But I can also see algebraically exactly where it's going to be. Here's another important point on this graph. And if that one got flipped over the x-axis, I would have 3, -2. There is going to be one point on this graph, and only one point on this graph, where the red and my blue graph are going to cross. It happens at a special place. Where does it happen, and what do we call that special point on a graph? So, I'll rephrase the question again. When I draw this, there is going to be one and only one point where the blue graph and the red graph cross. That point where they cross has a special name. Where is that point? Sometimes you can't even say the coordinates exactly. You just have an idea, but it has a special name. So I'm gonna draw it. There we go. Would you agree that I had it cross at the right spot? Does that seem like the right spot? Right there. What is that point called on a graph? There's a couple names for it, actually, more than one name. An x-intercept. Sometimes we call it a 0, right? On a graph, we like to say x-intercept because it's really visual crossing the x-axis. Does it make sense at an x-intercept that the point wouldn't change? Well, at an x-intercept, what's the value of y? 0. And if algebraically we're multiplying the y's by a -1, what happens when you multiply 0 by -1? It doesn't change. So that would be the reason why that is the point. Okay? So what would happen as a question on an exam? They might say, where does the graph of g of x and -g of x intersect? And you'd have to think about that and understand that that's the point. And again, I reread the question, hoping I would be done, and it said domain and range again. So, domain and range of our red graph. Again, the textbook, if it goes like this, it goes on forever. In set notation, you would write both of these like that. In interval notation, I'll do the blue one in interval notation. It would be exactly the same thing. Domain is still everything. Range is still everything. But in interval notation, you could write from -infinity to infinity. That's how you would say everything in interval notation. So turn to the homework questions and circle 4, 5, 6, 10, and 11.